You know that moment when you realize the people you admire just didn't wake up successful? They figured it out as they went? That's the part no one really talks about. So I am talking about it. I'm Jeannie Walden, and this is Liftoff Journeys. This is where I sit down with leaders, founders, and executives to talk about how they actually became the people they are today. We skip the titles, we skip the bios, we focus on the choices, the detours, and the instincts that shape their journey. Because when you understand how someone else navigated their career, it changes how you think about your own. Let's see where today's journey takes us. Hey, everybody, welcome back to Liftoff. And our next expert is Stephen Gee. He launched Blend, a very cool network with a mission to dismantle siloed leadership and rebuild it with connection, cognitive diversity, and trust. It's such a different take on the way that we're so used to seeing different groups get together, especially when you're used to it being just one industry or one level. But his approach is that tech and business innovation are anchored by empathy and community. And I'm so excited to have him on the show. Welcome to Liftoff.
Yeah, hi Jeannie, lovely to see you. Thanks for having me.
I'm so excited to have you on the show because I've been to a number of Blend events and they're extremely powerful, especially when you look at the cross-channel connection. And that's something that I always talk about when I'm working with companies is that it isn't just a marketing issue or sales issue or a tech issue. It's the way that different groups relate and work cross channel. And oftentimes, leaders or even workers in the different silos never get exposure to what the other areas and groups do. So, when you talk about empowerment for executives, how much of it do you feel is about community and peer accountability rather than that solo or siloed strategy?
Yeah, I think thanks, Jeannie, and I think you've hit the nail on the head there, really, in terms of the world that we saw it from a leadership perspective and the world that we're now seeing it from a leadership perspective. And I think there's a lot of things that factor into why you can't just look inwardly in terms of your leadership opinions and views and experiences, and why you have to now look more broadly. If we think about AI, we think about all of the things from a geo and social political standpoint that as organizations we now have to deal with in probably a bigger way than we used to. And all of that requires us as leaders to look more broadly and look more extensively. So when Jeff and I launched and built the community, it was after 20 years of listening to people sit and talk in their own silos for sometimes the entirety of their careers, never having the opportunity to really go, how does a CIO see this versus how does a CMO see this? Or how does a chief procurement officer see this versus a chief legal officer? These people don't normally get the chance to speak, and seeing those conversations is incredibly empowering, but also enlightening in terms of the perspectives that they're able to gain that they wouldn't normally get the chance to have.
Yeah, it's funny when I talk about when I'm being interviewed and I talk about, what are some of your biggest success stories? The one that sticks in my head, which you've probably heard a million times, is the one where my old CEO made me go and talk to every executive throughout the company and ask them what success for a marketing program would feel like to their team. And it was the most eye-opening discussion that I ever had. And it was the chief legal officer that ended up like really helping me understand and appreciate the impact that not only I was planning for, but the impact that marketing was having on the business. And that kind of unlocked a capability for me to like empower others in a much better way cross-functionally. So in your experience, where do you feel like leaders most often lose the ability to empower others? And what do you think the shortcut to get to that right is? Go to a blend event?
Well, I have to say that, Jamie, of course. So come and be a member of the community, yeah. Um, but I think more broadly than that, I think it's very easy in this day and age to be under the pressure of month end, quarter end, hitting your results, hitting your numbers, whatever that is, because in every area of business, particularly in large organizations, those targets and those pressures are real. And actually having the ability to stop, get your head up and think about what's next isn't always something as leaders that we prioritize, and yet we should. And it's only really when you do that that you can then consider, well, what does next look like for me in terms of that could be your personal career, but it also could be what that means for your team or for your area of the business or for your business as a whole. And I think to do that and to consider a difference of perspective or a difference of experience is really where that gap, but also the most exciting opportunity, I believe, exists. Because seeing it from a different perspective or applying things from a different function or a different industry can have massive opportunity. A story everybody knows is the Uber example. Not to be mean, but, the Uber team technology-wise weren't doing anything that didn't already exist. But they spied an opportunity because they crossed an industry boundary that no one had considered crossing before. They'd taken technology and applied it in a disruptive way. And I think that's true of almost every role and every industry. Those opportunities are out there. You just have to stop, take your time to look up and think, actually, where can I get a different perspective? Where can I access some new thinking that might unlock an opportunity like an Uber opportunity for me?
It's so interesting that you say that because it sounds easy, what you're saying, but it's really challenging because I mean, I'm reminded at least once a week that you don't know what you don't know until you realize you don't know it. But it's oftentimes that until you come across something that you don't have that aha moment, even if it's right in front of you. So, from an executive strategy or a mentoring perspective, if someone watching this discussion today wants to feel more influential tomorrow, or they want to start thinking from a different perspective, what's one action that you would ask them or suggest that they do right now?
Yeah, I think it's being intentional. I think you have to stop and take the time to look at yourself and think, I've got to where I am. And often for most executives, that's a very successful place, and it's hard to sometimes hold the mirror up to yourself and say, where can I do better? What can I do more of, or what have I got wrong so far? And then to stop and say, okay, so what are those opportunities? And so put yourself in a place where you can be challenged. Put yourself in a place where you aren't the expert in the room. Put yourself in a place where, in fact, often you're the idiot in the room. And if you're doing that, then that's growth, and it should be uncomfortable for you. And I think, one of the things that's been really exciting for us in the community is to see, you take such seasoned executives who know everything about their specific domain or their specific industry, and you pop them into a conversation that is in a different industry or in a different domain of expertise, and they are the idiot in the room, and it's a liberating experience for them, because probably for the last 20 years they've been the one that everyone looks at for the answers, and actually for them to go, I don't know, I have absolutely no idea, but I'm here to learn, is a brave thing and can be an uncomfortable thing, but it's where all the exciting growth happens. And I'm sure, Jeannie, we've had this conversation multiple times, but it's always those moments of what feel like serendipity. I've learned something I didn't know when I've met someone I didn't know I needed to meet. But it doesn't have to be serendipity. You can be intentional about it. And I think for me, that's the thing I would encourage leaders to think about is, am I putting myself in a place that is uncomfortable for me because it means I'm learning? And obviously I'm going to say Blend is the place you can do that, and you can come and do it. But I think before that, it has to start with some intention about investing in yourself and putting yourself in a place to grow.
It's possibly the scariest conversation that I've ever had on Liftoff, I have to say, because someone told me about they said there's a challenge. It's called the 3 foot challenge. And some famous salesperson put this together and said, if you are 3 feet away from somebody at any point in time, in any situation, for any reason, and you don't know them, from a great sales and growth perspective, you're supposed to introduce yourself to them and just talk about what they know. And that to me is probably the most uncomfortable, scariest thing. But this could be topping that because you're suggesting that we walk into a room or an office or a business and say, I don't really know anything about what you do, but I'm here to learn. But on the other hand, I've been in that position before, and I've gone to blend events, and I've been that person that after decades of experience is walking into a room of people that I know nothing about their industry or what they do. And It is very empowering and liberating because you walk up to somebody and you say, "Oh, hi, I'm Jeannie," and they say, "Oh, hi, I'm so and so," and then they tell you their title, and you realize you've never heard of this title before in your life, and then you start to question, "How in the world can I be successful at my job if I have no idea what that means?" But it's funny when you say, "I don't know what that means. Can you explain what I do?" And the conversation starts, and it shifts immediately not to I'm this title, where there's this like battle for who's the bigger expert, but it becomes where do we have common ground? Where can we both connect on? And I remember the last Blend event I was at, I ended up talking to somebody from the technology department about, lack of funding for certain technology and ops and processes. And we became fast friends over something that were two different worlds apart, but we came to some similarity. So I don't know. You might be right. I think we're going to have to challenge everybody on Liftoff to try it and report back.
It is definitely an uncomfortable thing to do, particularly. And I think one of the things we've been very intentional about in building the community is that we're consciously asking someone to do something which is opposite to human behavior. Nature tells us to hang out with people who look like us, think like us, are from the same background as us, do the same things as us. That's what we do as humans, and yet we're trying to say, actually disrupt yourself, do the opposite. Come and put yourself in a room of people who are of a similar level of experience to you and can understand your challenges and narratives as a leader, but will challenge you because they are completely different from you and their own expertise. And I think for us, creating an environment that you can do that safely has been quite intentional, and has thrown up some really surprise benefits. You mentioned one of them, the opportunity for it to feel cathartic and fun and friendly, because when you're doing those things, there is a lot of psychology attached to the discovery of those conversations, the energy that comes out in those conversations, and when you do things that are difficult or that you're being brave to do, that comes with so much good feeling as well. So it comes with a wonderful warmness in the room, because people aren't competing; they're just there to help each other and help themselves become better leaders, which is lovely. We love it.
Oh my gosh, I hate to even pause this conversation, but we just need to take a really quick break. We'll be right back. Well, okay, so Lift Up Journeys is all about how you got to where you are today. So I completely, knowing you in your prior career, I completely appreciate how you ended up getting to this spot. But I mean, talk to me about like how it all started. How did you end up in this field and industry in the first place?
Not intentionally, Jeannie. I trained at university to be a volcanologist, which was my dream job. I wanted to study volcanoes, and then I realised there's very few active volcanoes in the world, therefore not many exciting jobs. Plus, you're in some remote place in the middle of nowhere, and you have no friends, no wife, no life. Typically, not to be mean to volcanologists, but you have a cool job. But I realised it wasn't for me. And so I just looked for a graduate job, and the first graduate job I went for was with the biggest events organisation in the planet, and I was lucky enough to be interviewed by the managing director, and he just offered me a job on the spot, and we were working on some of the biggest events in the world, Mobile World Congress, other things like this. It was just a baptism of fire, and I realised that I loved it. It was the people, and so 20 years later, I'm still in the events. I was in the event space. I'm now in the human space, where we're able to still cultivate and create relationships. But it came all from this, I suppose, happy accident, as it so often does in people's leadership careers, that I met someone who took me down a path which I didn't know I needed, but apparently I do.
I think it makes total sense. Volcanoes, volcanic disruption in corporate industry. I mean, it is exactly what you went to university for, if you think about it, I have to say. So I'm pretty sure if you thought about what you learned in university and what you're applying to your business now, it's probably going to be similar because, my background in psychology and teaching gets applied every single moment of every single day. And I didn't appreciate how much the psychology degree actually would benefit me both for consumers and for peers and other marketers. So it's pretty fascinating. But let's talk about Blend. So for everyone that's listening, they don't follow Blend yet as much as I do. So talk about when it launched, what your mission is, and what you're up to right now.
Yeah, thanks, Jeannie. So we have our second birthday on the 30th of November, and Blend is the leadership community for enterprise leaders across the globe who want to step out of their silo, who want to challenge themselves to think differently. So our whole mission and purpose is to help leaders become better leaders by accessing what we call diversity of thought, but in essence, people who just don't think like you. And so we have now community in New York, London, San Francisco, Toronto, Boston, Chicago, and there are 6 cities that we're looking to launch into next year. And the mission is that we have this global interconnected community of leaders who are all there to grow together. That's really the true definition of community, people who choose to grow together, and that's what our members are doing. And yes, that's what the exciting journey we've been on. We're off to an awards due tomorrow night here in London for the National Business Brilliance Awards, where we're hopefully we're up for New Business of the Year, which is quite exciting. So we've made a really strong start as an organisation, but we're most excited about what comes next.
That's it's so exciting to hear how far you've gotten, and congratulations on 2 years, because as you know, most small businesses don't make it past one. So you're now already above the fray and a winner in our minds. But how did you get the courage, the funding, just the people behind you to start Blend? Did you plan it for a while before you made the shift? Did you go out and fundraise? Did you call all your friends and say, hey, help me out, as I often do with Lift Up? Be like, please, can you just help me? I just need some help with social, or I just need a place to shoot or something else. How did it all come together, and was it hard?
So um, obviously 20 years in events means you know a lot of people. And I was lucky enough to have worked across all sectors and all across most geographies in the world, which I'm very fortunate to have done. And most importantly, the 8 years preceding launching Blend, I made a very good friend, in fact, my best friend, who's now my co-founder. And Jeff and I, most importantly, aligned on values and aligned on ideology of what could be possible for leaders if we reprioritized them in the conversation and created something that was special for them. So I think that's the most important thing. I found somebody who I didn't have to do it on my own with, and that was all the things that I'm not as well, which is great. So we have a very strong environment of psychological safety between the two of us. I feel that he will, I'm sure, tell me that I should have probably worn a different jacket on today's show, and I feel comfortable him telling me that. And I think that's important bedrock with which to start from. And then it was about, yes, taking time to form the right strategy. So we didn't rush into anything. We both quit our well-paid, safe and secure jobs, much to the joy of our wives, to test a hypothesis really that we both had, which was that, the most valuable conversations for these leaders was one that they weren't having. And we spent 8 months speaking to about 500 different leaders across North America and here in Europe. A good chunk of those we knew, but actually we also didn't want to just speak to people that we knew, because unfortunately people who know you will tell you things you want to hear, and to really understand what could be most valuable for them. So we took our time, and then we launched once we knew that we'd listened and we had something that would really make sense to people. But we were also intentional about how we funded. So it's fully self-funded by us as a business, and we wanted to retain control of what we build, because in order to really build something that is best for our members, we feel it's important that we're not chasing the wrong goals, which may be, satisfying investors or chasing goals that perhaps wouldn't be aligned to what's best for our leaders. So we've been lucky and fortunate that we've been able to build it in a way that we have, and we hope to very much continue in that path.
And you've got big plans too. So you started out, well, let me ask, you started out in one city, right? Or did you start out in multiple cities from the beginning?
Well, we started out in one and added one 7 days later.
Oh,
Um,
okay. Well, was
much,
that planned or did that just happen because so many people were interested in supporting you and helping you?
Yeah, it was. It was originally that we were going to do one and then a second, and in that process of speaking to lead, they were like, "No, you've got to do it here. You have to do it." And so London and New York felt they became the most obvious places. But if I think you asked Jeff and I if we would do it 7 days apart again, I think we'd probably say no. But all good things. There's probably a few grey hairs here that were gained in the process. Um, but yes, we started in those two, and the vision for us is that there are about 34 cities right across the globe that have enough, a deep enough depth and a breadth of enterprise leaders that we can build a blend community within. So if we're not in your city yet, don't feel like you can't come and reach out or speak to us, because we are probably going to be in that city in the not too distant future. And that's considering not just North America, but the Middle East and Asia as well as Europe, because we feel to have true cognitive diversity of thought, you also have to consider geography in that.
For sure, for sure. So, for people that are listening or watching and want to look into attending a blend event, where should they go?
Yeah, so our website, www.joinblend.com, is the best place to learn all about us, to learn about membership, to learn about attending a session that we host, or engaging with one of our wonderful thought leaders. It's the best place to come and find us, or on LinkedIn. We're also often found hanging out on LinkedIn as well.
Amazing, amazing. Is there anything I didn't ask you that you want to make sure that we talk about as far as connection and community, empathy, leadership? I don't know. We covered a lot.
No, I think that's great. It's your show,
All right.
Jeannie.
All right. All right. Well, it
Was
is
it?
all.
Is that what you were looking for?
That's what I was looking for. It's what our audience is looking for sure. So, with that, thank you so much for being on Liftoff.
Thanks, Jeannie. It's a pleasure to see you as always, and look forward to seeing you soon.
That was awesome, right? I thought so, and I totally wasn't expecting half that conversation. And like always, I learned something new. One of the things I hope you can take away from today's conversation is this. There is no single path to growth, but there are great ideas that you can integrate into your own style. You know me, I'm a big fan of the AIR method: authenticity, inspiration, and relatability. And those are the patterns that will lead you to success. When you start noticing how people make decisions, how they pivot, lead, and handle those very real bumps along the way, the ones we all call life, you get much clearer about your own next move. And that's what we explore here on Liftoff Journeys and across everything we do at Liftoff Enterprises. We look at conversations, we do it through media and experiences designed to help leaders grow with more trust and confidence every day. If this episode resonated with you, there's more waiting for you. Whether it's another journey, a Liftoff with Jeannie Weldon TV interview, or one of our Liftoff Spotlight episodes, find what speaks to you and use it to cross that trust threshold and go from stuck to unstoppable. Thanks so much for listening. Until next time.